I'm Casey Ciceri. My dad is a diesel mechanic, so his whole life he's been building race cars and making me ride ATVs and driving crazy trucks all the time. Having my father as a mechanic was probably what morphed me into what I am. I guess basically being raised around a garage and being dragged to like work spots and stuff like that. I'm the youngest of four, so it was kind of like, hey, come with me to this job and do this with me. If I like go to the racetrack, which we're there every single year starting April, which happens to be opening days on my birthday this year, so my dad's kind of ecstatic. Other than that, yeah, adrenaline is like definitely key to getting through the summer and going through the winter without the racetrack. This year is actually my first year racing. I've driven them but never raced them, so I'm excited about that. November 2013, I just had started dating this boy who is basically my father, but was, how old were we? About 19 years old. So I was like, oh my god, you're my dad. This is weird. We went up to his upstate house and I was riding his dirt bike, which is entirely too big for me. I was like, I could do this, like move over, I got this. So I got on the dirt bike and I was going around the house, around the yard, and I tried to stop, and when I went to stop, the bike basically fell on top of me and crushed my leg. It took the ambulance about an hour and a half to get there because we were up in East Durham, which is basically Narnia from everything. You can't even get to a gas station without driving 30 minutes. So it basically took an hour and a half, and then it took me a good 2 hours to get to the hospital. So I was like, I'm fine, I'll be back in like 30 minutes. The hospital was like 2 hours away. I went to Albany Medical Center. I stayed there for about 7 days. So the lady had mentioned to me, the EMT, she was like, you're gonna need surgery. And I was like, surgery? I've never had surgery before. Meanwhile, my parents, like everything I know is 2 hours away at home. So I was like, I'm fine. So as I arrived at the hospital, they were rushing me through, and they basically broke my leg back into place, made me stay overnight, and then in the middle of the night rushed me into emergency surgery. Basically said my leg was filling up with blood, no circulation was going through. So then they had to basically hook up a pump, a drain, that would drain out all of the blood and fluid that wasn't supposed to be there. So at first I thought basically like, you know when you're running and you're like, oh, I just sprained my ankle a little bit. That's what it felt like at first. And then as I was in the ambulance, I was like, this is really bumpy ride. And then as I got to the hospital, they said that I broke my tibia and my fibula. So I didn't want to do anything without my parents' consent. And they were like, you're over 18. So I had to sign all these forms. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So they rushed me into surgery. I came out, my parents were there, and I had this giant metal external fixator is what they call it. And it was drilled into my femur and into my tibia. And it was to hold the bones together because they had to insert a pump, as I said prior, to basically drain all the fluid and blood that wasn't supposed to be there. So they basically use the external fixator as a cast without fully enclosing your leg. So basically I was like, are you going to take this off? And it was like day to get discharged, and I was so excited to go home, and the doctor was like, nope, you're going to go home with that and have it for 8 weeks. So I was stuck with the external fixator for 8 weeks. So at first I thought basically like, you know when you're running and you're like, oh, I just sprained my ankle a little bit. That's what it felt like at first. And then as I was in the ambulance, I was like, this is really bumpy ride. And then as I got to the hospital, they said that I broke my tibia and my fibula.